Hello and welcome to the Isle of Wight College Open Day, and we're live on Facebook, and we're talking this afternoon to a number of our curriculum managers and heads of department about the course offers at the college. So this is an opportunity for you to find out more about what's on offer at the college and to start thinking about your plans for the autumn. As we all know, it's been a difficult few months, and as we're starting to come out of lockdown, it's a time to start thinking about the future and our plans. And we've got lots of options here at the college for students to consider. So for the next 10 minutes, we're going to be talking to Rob Mew. Rob is the head of department for land-based studies, and that includes horticulture and animal care. So Rob will be giving us a little bit of an overview of those areas and your study options. If you'd like to find out more after you've spoken, after we've had the interview, you can contact us. All the details of how to get in touch are on our website, so Google Isle of Wight College, or on our Facebook page, and you can arrange a one-to-one interview over the telephone to find out more and to find out how to apply. So all the details are on the website or Facebook Live. So over to Rob, who's going to give us a quick overview about land-based studies. So welcome, Rob. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
First of all, perhaps give us a quick overview of what courses are on offer in horticulture and animal care in your area.
Okay, yeah. So we're a fairly small department, but within that section we have horticulture. Horticulture is really about working in a scenario where you're working with plants, and so that scenario could be working in a garden centre or a nursery. You're growing large quantities of stock which is for sale, and so working in those sort of areas you'd need to think about working with plants, growing plants, knowing the technicalities of growing plants, but also you're going to need to think about dealing with customers. So working in that area is about the technicalities, but it's also knowing about how to stock your garden centre up, how to understand stock control, dealing with customers, handling money, carrying out those transactions, those sorts of things. The other part of the industry is where it's more about the maintaining of grounds rather than the idea of money being exchanged and the production side. So in the more decorative side, it's really working with plants in parks and gardens. And if you take the Isle of Wight, wonderful examples, because we've got some amazing gardens and estates that surround historic properties, such as English heritage. And part of that job would be to maintain those plants within the grounds there. Other examples of things, gardens like English heritage, with English heritage and other aspects of the venues on the island, such as the Appledockham House, for example.
Yes, yeah, so Osborne House as well.
Osborne is really good. Carisbrooke Castle has gardens too. But we also have a botanic garden on the island, so working with plants in a botanic garden is much more scientific.
Yeah.
So it's learning much more about where do they come from in the world, are they endangered, how do we maintain those populations of plants, and link in with other growers and other botanic gardens around the world. That's really the purpose of that. So that's more about understanding the science and the ecology of plants. There are a lot of specialist routes in the industry too. There are horticulturalists who train and working with trees, with the idea of working in trees as a tree surgeon or an arborist. Working with just grass, maintaining turf in sports turf, so maintaining a bowling green or a golf course. They're very specialised routes within our industry. So it's quite a big industry in horticulture, and maybe not everyone is aware of what the different aspects of that industry really look like. But it is effectively working with plants in different sorts of scenarios.
Yeah.
We also offer courses in animal care and animal management. Working with animals is not to be confused, although it is slightly linked to the idea of working with pets. Pets and working professionally with an animal in a scenario such as a zoo, a pet shop, a kennel or a cattery, and indeed in looking at animal welfare is actually the professional job that you would carry out.
Yeah.
And much of that again is dealing with people. If you imagine working as a veterinary nurse, you have the welfare of the animal to deal with, working with the vets, working with the other practitioners, but also you've got the owners of the pets who might well be very anxious. We have to talk about euthanasia of animals. That's a very big part of animal care. And how do you deal with the loss of animals, and how would you look after the owners of pets that have sadly had to be put down? There are specialist routes working with animals, and one of the big popular areas is working with reptiles. It's a massive industry, lots of domestic animals with particular interest in reptiles. So that's a big growing industry, and has been for some time, because there you need to know more about the enclosure, not just the animal itself.
Yeah.
You know, knowing what the substrates are required, what's the head humidity, what's the temperature, what are the feeding regimes. So working with animals is more than sitting at home with a cat on your lap. It's about looking after animals really in a professional sense, and knowing all the different needs across the different types of animal sets that you might work with. So we have a lot of examples of that on the Isle of Wight. If you take the island, we've got lots of kennels, catteries, we've got lots of equine setups, and of course we've got Amazon World and the Isle of Wight Zoo. We have the owl and monkey sanctuary. So they have similarities, but equally they have their own separate specialisms. And in the past, our students have had experience across all of those sorts of places of work.
Yeah. That's really interesting, and what strikes me from what you've just described is that there are a lot of, as well as all the specialist skills that people learn on those courses, a lot of it is about learning about communication skills, about business skills, knowing how to do your maths and your accounts and all that kind of thing. So how do you make sure students learn all those skills as well?
So a lot of all of that involves is part of the involvement of the training of working with animals. So to know about the enclosure, you do need to know how to work out a volume. So there is applied number skills in that. And in fact, there are regulations, and we work within the Animal Welfare Act around the size of the accommodation being right for the animal that you've got. And there are defined spaces in which animals can be kept, be it sheep in a field or animals in a glass tank. But yeah, we also have students that do a lot with customers. We do a lot of stuff in college with customer skills, but equally when students are on work experience, they're often right at the front and dealing with the customers as they come through the door. So again, kennels and catteries is looking in, and all that sort of communication. But equally things like logging an animal and its care. So a lot of the industry relies on either computer use or note-taking in diaries around feeding regimes or medicine that's being used, prescriptive medicines and so on. So the communication is really vital, particularly when you're handling animals.
Yeah. Not
different really also when you're working with crops. A plant equally needs to be kept hydrated. One of the key things about working in our industries is that you can throw away a timetable in respect that plants and animals don't do Mondays to Sundays. They have to be fed, they have to be watered, and they have no ability to do that for themselves. So you as the carer of that plant, that crop, all those animals, you have to be the one that takes the lead. So weekend duties and working on social hours is a big part of how the land-based industries operate. So it's not unusual for a veterinary nurse to be working from 7 in the evening till 7 in the morning and looking after the animals throughout the night. And so the shifts can be very different.
Yeah, but a very rewarding vocation.
Yeah.
If that's something that you want to specialise in.
It's true to say that you are unlikely to earn huge amounts of money working in the land-based industries, but it's really balanced out by the sheer love of working with plants and working with animals. And all the people that I know in the industries out there, locally and further afield, they love their jobs because it's working close with plants and it's working close with animals, and that's fulfilling their needs.
And talking about things like learning English and math skills, and and the technical side of the learning, do you find that your learners, perhaps who've found those things a challenge and a struggle, perhaps at school, do they find them easier to sort of to learn within the context of animal care, if that's something they're really passionate about?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are motivated, learning is about being motivated. If you're motivated, you will learn things. And if you're trying to apply the skills which maybe you thought you weren't good at in school, particularly around, say, maths, is actually when you get into an animal unit and you're working with animals and you have to work out their volume of food, for example, their weights in terms of the types of food that they're fed, the amounts. It could be to do with putting dosages of medicine in and diluting things down. Generally, students actually get that. Yeah. So that when it's applied to their industry, the pennies tend to drop with things like number skills, and certainly in communication, a lot of students feel they're no good at English. Actually, they're very strong at speaking and their customer care skills. So actually they're often better than they realise, and it comes through when they come into working.
That's great. And what course levels do you offer here at the college?
So we offer programmes through from level 1 and even pre-level 1 up to level 3. So students can come in either at level 3 or they can come in at level 1 and work their way through. Our key measure really is the students presenting their GCSE grades, which will give us an idea about where they're coming at. But the key thing for us is around sending students out, being able to go into the world of work where they have developed the practical skills, the underpinning knowledge, and those sorts of behaviours you'd want to see out in the workplace. So sometimes a student will come in and they may have very high GCSE grades, but actually might want to practice their practical skills over a longer period, and we can accommodate that. So, yep, students can come in at level 1 and work their way up to 2 and 3, but they can stay as long as they can within their entitlement to develop those skills in. Yeah.
And as well as students obviously going out to work, do you have students progressing from level 3 onto higher education?
We have a good track record. Lots of level 3 students in animal management go on to study at a higher level. We have lots of examples of students who have gone away and specialised. Generally, students tend to finish with us on their level 3, which is a generalised level 3 animal programme, and then they will specialise. So, for example, a few years ago, one of our students went to Southampton and specialised in studying marine biology. So there's some good routes out there. Many of the horticultural students really love the Isle of Wight and they like to stay on the Isle of Wight. But we have the opportunity to link in with lots of mainland establishments, and we work closely with the Royal Horticulture Society. Students have gone through RHS routes to train further. We have a lot of success around students ending up working at the gardens at Wisley in Hampshire, and that they can move in their industry pretty easily, really, because there are very few people, sadly, there are very few people studying horticulture, and there are lots of opportunities out there to progress.
That's great. And while students are studying here, are there opportunities for work experience?
Absolutely. So we build in work experience to both the animal and the horticulture routes. We really like to work on the idea that you'll do 1 or 2 days work experience for each week, and we encourage that across the year. Certainly in horticulture, the jobs that you do in the autumn will be very different from those in the spring and the summer. So we like to think we can get students in and get the full cycle of the year in where possible to get that work experience. Our students in horticulture have worked at places including the National Trust, English Heritage, as we've mentioned, with Osborne House, Ventnor Botanic Gardens. We have links to growers of vegetables and fruit, and some students quite like the idea of growing large productions, so that's a good opportunity for them to try out. We have very, very strong links both in animal and in horticulture with employers out there, so we've got those strong links, and there's some very good opportunities for students to go out and do that. And in fact, it does result in some really good outcomes. A number of students that we see at Osborne House as gardeners were all ex-students of mine. We have students at the Owl and Monkey Sanctuary. Again, a significant number of those students came through us, trained with us, and found full-time work there, and those are real accolades to them. So they've been very successful locally to get that.
That must give you a real positive feel when you
Really
go
good.
around the island.
Yeah, really nice.
And just finishing off, is there anything that you'd want to say to an individual who's thinking about a career in animal care or horticulture? You know, what would you say would be inspire them to seriously consider that as an option?
The thing that you have to work on is whatever it is that makes you tick. And if working outside, working with plants or working with animals, if those are your real motivations in life and you're a caring person, and those come through in your character, and you're a reliable person, then be inspired by the fact that there are lots of opportunities out there in both of those streams, and equally they're very diverse. So you can start off travelling on a certain journey, say for example in horticulture, and then you veer off in a different direction to a similar industry. It's very transferable, the skills that you gain, you can move into other routes, and so it does widen options out. There are a lot of people that come to our industry who have had a career, often in more office-based scenarios, and they have a think. At a certain point in their life, they have a bit of a think, and they actually then come into the land-based industries in their 20s, their 30s and their 40s. It's very common for us to see that. So those skills are never too late to be learnt in our trades. They are very simple things to pick up on, but the starting point has got to be a motivation at the core of that.
Yeah. And I suppose finally we also ought to say that we're very lucky to have a team of teaching staff who have got really good industry backgrounds, various skills and
they're all still
experiences.
practicing. It's not like they're just teaching. They all have their backgrounds which are very relevant, and many of the staff still work. They are still working in the industry, so they're very current. They know what's going on now. They're very of the moment, and they bring that back into their teaching and they share that with their students.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Rob. That's been really interesting to find out more about land-based studies. So if you're interested in any of those areas, so that's animal care and horticulture, then please do contact us. As I said at the beginning, our contact details are on our website, which you can Google Isle of Wight College, or on our Facebook page, and you can contact us at any point over the next few weeks and months, and we will be here to arrange a one-to-one telephone call for you, so you can speak to Rob or one of his tutors, and they can give you one-to-one information about signing up for a course and further details, and answer any of your questions, and explain to you how you can apply. So we hope you've enjoyed listening to us for the last 10 minutes, and thank you for joining us.